Welcome to Freedom Fighters Code Grey. This is a show where we discuss human trafficking, an issue that's happening in our own backyard. Did you know that in Canada, over 1 in 4 people who are trafficked are children, people who are under the age of 18? And did you know that most people who are trafficked for sexual exploitation in Canada are women and girls? Well, you might be wondering, what happens when someone exits a situation of exploitation? And where do they go to seek healing and experience freedom? Well, today I have with me a special guest, Kate Moore, who is the Senior Manager of Community Engagement at SafeHope Home. Welcome, Kate.
Hi.
Thanks so much for coming and joining us today. We're so glad to have you here and to learn from your experience. So just to begin with, can you share a little bit about what exactly is human trafficking and what does it look like in Canada?
Yeah, so human trafficking, in simple terms, I guess, is when someone is exploited by force, manipulation, coercion, for the purpose of material or financial gain by a third party, whether that third party is a group of people or just one person. It has to include that third party. So there are a few different forms of human trafficking. There's sex trafficking, forced labor, but what we see mostly in Canada is sex trafficking, and we mostly see domestic sex trafficking. So what that means is it's mostly Canadians being trafficked in Canada. There's no crossing over international borders. You don't even have to leave the town that you grew up in. So there doesn't even have to be movement for someone to be trafficked. We often say that the way Hollywood portrays human trafficking is not what we see here in Canada. It's more based on a false relationship here, whether it's a boyfriend, a friend, even a family member. So it's a whole process where they lure their intended victim, they groom them, and then they start to manipulate them. They basically kind of say, like, look at everything I gave you, now you owe me. It's a whole long process, but and that's where that psychological manipulation comes in, and then that's part of why it's so hard for them to leave their situation. And like you said before, it's mostly young women. They say on average, in our area, they're on average 14, 15-year-olds, but it can be as young as 12. So it is very bad in Ontario. They say, I think it's like 69% or 66% of all of trafficking in Canada is happening in Ontario, and 85% of that is in the GTA. So this is a major hub where we are for trafficking.
Thank you for just that comprehensive overview. There are so many important facts that you help to shed light on what human trafficking is and what it looks like in our communities. How did you get involved in anti-trafficking work?
So me personally, I went to school and I studied sociology and criminology, and then went back and did victimology. So I was exposed to it a bit there, but not as much. It wasn't as talked about as it is now. So I would maybe have 1 or 2 classes about it, but it just really, I think because where I grew up, I would have never expected this to even be a thing. So when I learned, oh no, this is actually happening, I became very passionate about it and wanted to somehow help the situation, whatever that was. So then I kind of started looking into, okay, what's happening around me, what agencies are around me, and then I heard about SafeHope Home. So I started to I just contacted them one day and said, I want to do a fundraiser. I'm going to do this whole big gala thing. And they were like, who are you? But so I ended up doing that. And now here I am.
Wow, that's so inspiring. You heard about this issue. It broke your heart. It thought it was happening in your community. And then you were like, I want to do something about this. I want to get involved. And at the beginning, you really empowered an existing charity through raising funds. I think that's brilliant. So way to go for doing that. That's really inspiring. And so you mentioned that fundraiser was for SafeHope Home, and that's now where you work. So can you tell me a little bit about what SafeHope Home is?
Yeah, so SafeHope Home is a long-term recovery program for girls and young women who have been trafficked. So the way we always kind of explain it is we're not an emergency shelter. We're kind of more of a second stage. So basically, if the police say help a girl and they call us and they're like, oh, we just rescued her, can she come there? Unfortunately, that's not what we do. We're more after they've kind of made the decision, like, okay, I am ready to recover, I'm ready to heal, but I need all of this support because I don't even know where to start. Because we have to remember a lot of them were trafficked when they were 14, 15. So there are a lot of things that they never learned. So that's kind of when they come to us and we help them with all of that. We have a few different programs. So our main one is our residential and day program. So this is when they come and they actually live in a home that we supply them with, and then they attend our day programming. So this would be similar to going to school every day or going to work every day. So they come to our day program and we do programming on everything from self-esteem, anger management, relapse prevention, nutrition, budgeting, basically everything. And that lasts about 9 months to a year. So the one thing that's interesting about our program that makes us unique is in total, it lasts about 3 to 7 years, and even longer if they need it. But so just for them to finish the curriculum, it takes about a year. And then we start looking on to independence in the community or finishing high school, going to college, going to university, building some employability skills. And so then that takes a little bit. And then even once they're living on their own, we're still supporting them because that's when they enter our follow care program. So that's basically just us still supporting them while they're out on their own. And then we have our outreach program. So this is for girls that maybe aren't eligible for the day program, maybe don't want to come. It's a voluntary program, so no one's forced to be here. Or maybe they're just not ready because our program is pretty intensive. Some people just aren't quite there yet, but they'll still be in our outreach program. So we'll still supply them with housing support, court support, weekly check-ins, goal setting, case management, all of that. And we're actually implementing now some day programming for our outreach clients. So they can all come together as a group, obviously virtually right now, but they can come together as a group and have that support for each other.
Wow, such amazing work that SafeHope Home is doing. And what I'm just thinking about as you're sharing is that it's so much more than simply a bed or a roof over your head. And of course, that is essential and that's really important in someone's healing journey. But there's all these support services that SafeHope Home has created to really wrap around and provide short-term, immediate, follow-up care, and even outreach care for individuals who aren't really ready in that space to come into the full intensive program. So that's really just incredible, all those various components that the organization has. How did SafeHope Home start? Like, where did it begin and where did it come from?
Yeah, so our executive director, he actually went on a missions trip to India and he went to a home there for girls that have been trafficked. And he was just so impacted by what he saw and who he met. So when he came back here, he kind of was just curious about what's going on in Canada and in Ontario specifically. So once he realized, okay, this is an issue here, he kind of similar like to what I said, he was like, I need to do something. So him and the founding members of SafeHope Home, they actually went out west to another organization out there to kind of see like what they were doing and if that could work over here in Ontario. So then they brought that back here and SafeHope Home was formed.
That's incredible. So when exactly did it open? How long has it existed for?
So it first kind of the idea of it started being created in 2015, but we've only been fully up and running with the home. And so we have our home and we have like our program space. We've only had those since February 2018. So we're still pretty new, kind kind of not learning as we go, but things change, and it's going well so far.
Yeah, that's incredible. And it's such an important need in the community. And so I'm just really excited that within these few years that your services have grown so much. What is your role in the home and what does that look like?
So I do most of the awareness, raising awareness of human trafficking, raising awareness of SafeHope Home in general, and also a lot of the building community partnerships, whether that's with donors or other agencies like us. So, if we're full, we can reach out to someone and say, oh, hey, like we're full, but we have this referral. Can we forward it? So just keeping those relationships good kind of thing. That's what and also the fundraising. So I still do the gala every year. But because we're such a small organization, we do all really, really work together as a team. So I am also lucky enough to, every once in a while, I get to go to the house or help in program and be there for our clients, which I love, being able to actually spend some time with them. So yeah,
That's awesome. One of the things you mentioned that you're a part of is partnerships. And so I'm just curious to know, what do you think the importance of partnerships is in the fight against human trafficking?
They're unbelievably important. And not only, just as I was saying, partnerships amongst similar agencies, but also partnerships amongst like us and the police, us and victim services, because there are so many different, like, even though we try to have that like holistic wraparound approach to how we support, there are some things that we can't support them with, right? So for instance, like we have a really great relationship with ODSP and Ontario Works. We've arranged it so we have one worker for every single one of our clients. And we've been able to like train them in human trafficking and kind of say like, hey, these are the things that like we don't say to them, or, you have to remember that this is overwhelming for them. And so that kind of thing is really great, because then we're ensuring that they are receiving that proper support, that full proper support that they really need to recover.
Wow, that's so neat. And even in that example that you just shared, you're providing an opportunity to educate the community on trafficking, or in this case, this partner, to be more trauma informed in their approach. But then also for the individuals that you're serving and assisting at SafeHope Home, there's a safe person that they can continually access support from that's not changing, and they can begin to establish those bonds of trust that are so essential in someone's healing journey. So that's just fantastic. Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to continue this conversation on the importance of housing for people who have been trafficked. We're going to take a short break and come right back.
What kind of show do you want to see on Rogers TV? What interests you? Log on to rogerstv.com, fill out a show proposal, and tell us about your segment idea. We want to know what you want to see. Rogers TV, only on Rogers.
With NHL Center Ice, you get a premium ticket to the games you want every night of the season. Catch every key out-of-market matchup each week. You'll get more goals, more saves, more non-stop action from the teams you love. NHL Center Ice, part of the Rogers Super Sports Pack. All this for only $35.95 a month. Order through your remote on Channel 450 or call 1-888-ROGERS-1 today.
Welcome back to Freedom Fighters Code Gray. This is a show where we discuss human trafficking, an issue that's happening in our backyard. Today I have with me Kate Moore, who is the Senior Manager of Community Engagement at SafeHope Home, and we're discussing the importance of housing for trafficked people in Ontario. So Kate, welcome again, and I'm excited to continue this conversation. And I was just wondering if you could paint a picture for the viewers of what SafeHope Home is. Like when you walk into the building or you walk into the programming center, what could people expect in the home?
Yeah, so first, I will say our home and our learning center, they're both in very nice areas where they're on pretty big properties, which is nice. It's nice and quiet. And so the house, it houses 6 women at a time, which I know some people say, oh, that's not a lot. But that's it, so we can provide them that comprehensive care. But so each person has their own bedroom, so they don't have to share their personal space. They do share things like the kitchen, the living room, things like that. We also have a live-in support worker, so there's someone who actually lives there. And while we do have other staff there, so our live-in person isn't working 24/7, it is comforting for them to know that someone is always there. And then so also similar, our learning center or our program space, it's pretty small, it's quaint, it's very nice. It's not like your typical office building or school or anything like that. So basically how it works is Monday to Thursday, they come to our program center and they're here from 9:30 to 3. And so basically they'll be transported by the staff at the house to the program center, and they'll have a few classes in the morning. So usually on Monday, they start off with something like joy journaling, where it's a lot of just like crafts, art, painting, whatever they need to kind of express themselves. And then the next one might be a little bit tougher. It might be something like relapse prevention. And then they'll have lunch, and then they'll have their afternoon classes, similar things. They'll have 2 classes. We also sometimes we do horseback riding. So they go to a barn nearby where they get to horseback ride. And we've actually just started, I think it starts next week, actually. They're going skiing once a week. So I hope they enjoy that. And then the house staff will come and pick them up and take them back home. And then the evenings are free for them to kind of do what they want. Some people, depending on how program went, they might choose to just watch a movie or kind of be by themselves. But then sometimes they decide to cook together and have a dinner together. They always have family dinner on Sundays together all the time, but sometimes during the week, they might choose to eat together. We do offer them extracurricular activities as well. So we've had some people do horseback riding as an extracurricular. We've had people do singing lessons, piano lessons, rock climbing, things like that. And then Fridays are set aside for their trauma therapy, which is probably one of the most important aspects of their recovery, is having that trauma therapy. So we set aside that whole day so they can really, because that's hard, talking about your experiences and stuff. So we don't want to have them do trauma therapy and then have to come back and do more classes. So that's why we set aside that Friday for them. So that's kind of what their week looks like. And then their weekends are up to them, what they want to do. Obviously right now with COVID, that's not much, but yeah, they'll go for walks together, or sometimes the staff will just take them for ice cream and go for a drive or things like that.
And what's the typical length of stay for a woman or girl who's residing in the home?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. As I mentioned before, our program lasts about 9 months to a year. So then after that, it kind of depends where they're at in their recovery. So we've had some people stay for almost another year after, where we've had some people that have only stayed a few months, where they're kind of like, no, I think I'm ready to be off on my own. And we also kind of look at it at their recovery as well. And then if we think maybe they're not quite ready, we might have a conversation with them where we say, okay, like, yes, we want you to be independent, but look at these things that we might still have to work on, and like, let's maybe work on those before we jump to being out on our own. So it kind of depends, but I would say actually in the home, they're probably there for about 18 months to 2 years on average.
Wow. It's amazing that it sounds like really cater support and service to each individual and where they're at, and kind of come alongside them and assess to see what their needs are and their readiness for the next stage, which I think is just so beautiful. Why do you think, from your experience working in SafeHope Home, it is so important to provide this type of housing for people who have experienced sex trafficking?
So one of the most important things for housing is because they need to feel safe and they need to have that sense of security. In order for them to actually heal and recover, they need to not constantly be looking over their shoulder. They need to know where their next meal is coming from. They need to know where they're going to lay their head down at night. And so, like, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the bottom two are the physiological needs, like the food, the water, the shelter, the clothing. And then the next one is the safety and security. So without those foundational parts, they can't get to the self-love, the self-actualization, and like that recovery. So we need to make sure they have a space where they can go, where they actually feel safe. And a lot of these girls, they haven't felt safe for years, if not their entire lifetime. We don't know what their childhood was. We don't know that. So for all we know, they've never felt safe. So they've never actually felt like they can focus on themselves. So it's so important for them to have that place where they can go and they can actually focus on themselves and they can heal.
What would you say, Kate, is the difference between, for example, like a generic shelter that a city might provide to people who are in need of housing versus the specific housing that SafeHope Home has created for individuals who have experienced exploitation? And maybe if you could also share a bit about why not only providing the bed and roof is so important, but the wraparound services for this specific group of individuals who have experienced this kind of violence.
Yeah, so I would say that is the biggest difference, is that we do offer all of that support, and it's very, very specialized to trafficking, where other shelters, while they offer that safety and they do offer that like immediate emergency beds, they don't then offer the like that proper support, I guess you could say. And part of it with human trafficking is they say on average, these girls will leave their trafficker and go back 7 times. So we at SafeHope Home, we're trying to provide them with everything that they need so they don't go back. That's our goal, is to break that cycle. So in other shelters, if they're not actually getting that wraparound service, when they leave the shelter, they're kind of back where they were, where they're like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And especially for things like, I always remember I was told a story once from one of our clients where she walked into the grocery store and she was like, and I started crying. I've never been in a grocery store without like my mom, and I don't know what to do, right? So in other places, they don't take you to the grocery store. They don't walk around with you. They don't show you, where we do that kind of thing, right? So then when they are on their own, they're not going to walk into a grocery store and be overwhelmed. They're going to know what to do. And that's kind of, we're trying to totally rebuild their lives, and kind of resolve any past issues that they might have had that put them in that situation where they were vulnerable to being trafficked. So then hopefully in the future, it won't happen again.
I love what you're sharing, in that you're equipping and empowering individuals to be able to experience life and live more independently, but also at the same time to help break that cycle of trafficking and re-trafficking, which we know sometimes in some shelters, there are individuals who end up being recruited and re-trafficked from within the shelter itself. So I really appreciate how you just shared those differences. Would you be able to share a story of hope with us, of just, your experience journeying with some of these individuals in the home?
Yeah, so, I mean, there's so many. I would say ultimately, every single day that I walk into work, I can see the hope in these girls. Obviously, I can't share like too much specific stuff, but I would say, there was one of our participants who started going to university, and which we've had a few go to university, but I remember her saying, she said, that was never even a thought that crossed my mind. Like, she's like, years ago, even months ago, I never would have thought that I would be going to university and I would be getting a degree that one day could help me get a job. She's like, that was never even an option for me as far as I was concerned. But she told us, she said, you know, you guys helped me get there, because I feel like when these girls walk through our doors, we can see the potential in them and we can see like how brilliant they are, but they don't see that themselves. So that's kind of what we try to do, is try to empower them and make them realize their own potential, so then they can achieve these amazing things, because they can. They absolutely can. So they just need that support to get there. But I would say ultimately every single one of these girls that comes to our doors just gives everyone so much hope, because they've been through so much, and some of them have still such a positive outlook on life that it really is inspiring.
Wow. It is so inspiring just hearing you share as well the ways that individuals who have experienced exploitation are demonstrating resiliency and courage and pursuing dreams. Kate, if someone is viewing this today and is looking for assistance or support, or wants to get information about SafeHope Home because maybe some of their journey has included trafficking and they want to reach out for support, where can they access resources or get in contact with someone? But also for viewers who are tuning in, what is one way that they could make a difference in the fight against trafficking, and more specifically help support SafeHope Home?
Yeah, so our website has a ton of information. It's SafeHopeHome.com. There's all the information on there about if you need to make a referral to us, if you need to reach out to someone, or if you need to make a referral to someone else. That's all on there. Or if you want to support SafeHope Home, there's a donate button there. You can be a monthly donor or a one-time donor. We also, as I mentioned before, we have our gala, which obviously was canceled this year, but next year, hopefully, we will have it again. But also, I would say one of the biggest ways to help in the fight against human trafficking is to raise awareness of it. I always say to people, you know, educate yourself and then educate others, because the more that we're aware of this, the easier it will be to fight it.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, to you and your team for this important work that you do at SafeHope Home. It's truly invaluable, and it's been just such a privilege to learn from you today. If you or someone you know is currently in a situation of exploitation and you're in immediate danger, please call 911 if it's safe to do so. Or if you're looking for information or resources or support regarding trafficking, you can call our National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-833-900-1010. Again, that's 1-833-900-1010. Thanks so much for joining us on Freedom Fighters Code Gray.